Welcome to MOTS, where we'll be applying the Manzer or mostly Thurlow scale of quantitative analysis of pop culture narrative through a binary system.
Or MOTS! This podcast contains spoilers, mature content, and language. Viewer discretion advised.
Hello, welcome back to MOTS, although not a traditional review because it is happening again. And if you get that reference, we're going to just do sort of a retrospective salute/homage to Twin Peaks because at the day of this recording, it's coming back this Sunday. So we're all pretty big fans of it.
Yeah.
And if you're not aware, I'm Sheriff Harry Truman, a.k.a. Scott Thurlow, here with Agent Rosenfield, a.k.a. Jane Manzer.
And I'm here on this 2-bit podcast full of wannabe theorists.
Indeed you are. And also, Leland Palmer is here with us tonight.
Just come dance with me.
Who just wants us to dance with him, of course.
Dance with me.
So, yes. So, if you're a fan of Twin Peaks, good on you. Good job. We also are as well. And if you're not, if you haven't, heard of it, or if you know, if you've heard that the show is coming back and have never seen it, turn off this recording and go watch it right now, then come back. Because we're going to talk a bit about its influence, why it's so, ingrained and so influential on pop culture, and so many things that referenced it, used it, and it was definitely, I believe, we'll say, pioneering for its time.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
So, if you're not aware, it's basically a mishmash of genres. David Lynch directed it and wrote a bunch of it with, I believe his partner was Mark Frost, I believe was the, so it came out in 1989 on network TV, and it was sort of not a send-up, but you guys tell me, it used elements from soap operas, from detective, from a murder mystery, from all these other genres mashed up, Supernatural, sort of X-Files kind of thing, even before X-Files even existed.
Yeah, it took a ton.
In a way,
it took from a ton of different genres, and that's kind of why it was so good, and also I think why it was not, why it was canceled so early,
people weren't ready
so
for
quickly,
it.
right?
Yeah.
When you hear of a show being before its time, Twin Peaks certainly was.
Is almost the epitome of that kind of thing.
You know what? I'm not sure even right now would be its time. I think it would still be ahead of its time if Twin Peaks came out right now.
If you can take a quick turn, I believe that the pop culture sensibilities today are informed by something like Twin Peaks.
But yeah, well, I don't
think it would be ahead of its time. It was for sure back when it originally debuted. Yes.
Well, here's what I would say. Just a quick little aside. I think that there are a lot of shows that take their cues from Twin Peaks. I think there's a lot that's come from Twin Peaks that's in pop culture now. But I don't know if anything has been as ambitious as Twin Peaks was.
All right, fair enough.
Especially at the time, but even up till now, I don't know if anything has been that ambitious and actually been allowed to be put on TV. I don't know what other director could get away with it.
Well, I mean, he did get away with it until famously they canceled it after the second season, and hardcore fans were very upset about it. So now, of course, as a reference to it in the show, I'll see you in 25 years, and now here we are, technically, I suppose, 26, sure. But nevertheless, it's coming back. And so I want to ask you guys this question. Do you think, because it's coming back, is it an attempt to capture the hardcore fans, the very serious fans' nostalgia about it, or you think it makes sense to bring it back now that indeed Lynch and Frost, I believe, are connected and doing it in some way?
I think that it's fortuitous that that at this time, about 25 years later, they got their, everybody got their shit together, and they got all the most of the. I mean,
it was somewhat in a mid-level purgatory of production hell.
Somewhat famously, the log lady just died last year.
That's true.
Unfortunately, because I loved her.
She was a great character.
Besides.
What do you think, E?
So, I think it depends on where you're looking at. I think that Showtime is bringing it back to capture upon the nostalgia of Twin Peaks.
Mm-hmm.
David Lynch doesn't strike me as a man who would create something for the sake
for that. I agree.
Making an extra buck here or there to
exactly. He doesn't need any more money. He's more of an artist than a businessman.
And I think that he feels that nowadays the appreciation that went to Twin Peaks, which we'll discuss later, his audience is there, and all he needs to do is create or finish what he had started creating back then.
I pretty much agree. Like, you're right. Like, he's a true auteur in a sense, I would say. Right? That's the label, sort of, if I was slap on him. And Twin Peaks was like one of his original visions. Sure, he made a couple movies around the same time, a little bit after.
Funny story. A quick little aside to that. I was reading an article about him. I was reading an article about him, and he was saying that when he was approached, I think he was approached by Mark Frost about Twin Peaks or something like that. Like, he said that he was never interested in going into TV, but then they wrote the draft of the first
the script,
the pilot, and he said they basically finished. They got together. They wrote the first the pilot.
Sure.
And then they went home and they both read it separately, and they both basically tried to call each other at the same time to say, "Hey, this is actually pretty good." Like, I'm surprised how good this game. Like, as a TV show, something that we banged out in like. They went away for a weekend or something, and then they went back home to like read the script, and they were like, for something that we banged out this quickly, this is actually pretty damn good. Like, we got something here, and turned out that they did have something there.
Sure, agreed. So, like, if we're changing trivia, as I recall, there's a story where Lynch was visiting, I believe, like, studio, maybe the same one, right? And he had like a classic red car convertible, or was there on a lot, and it was a very hot day in LA, and he leaned his hands on the car, and like. This is a Lynchian thing. Like a vision came to him of this whole story.
Of course.
Like, it flashed in his mind, and so it was like percolating, if you will. Mm-hmm. And like that's how it came to him. Like he wasn't. I don't believe that he was pitching necessarily Twin Peaks. The story.
A fish in the percolator.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why, of course. Again, this episode is gonna be littered with references. So if you like it, cool. If you don't, watch Twin Peaks. But sure. So something like that. So regardless, though, it got made. It went forward. Yeah. So that story happened. And they made, I think they wrote, the first season was about 10 episodes, I believe.
I think it was
like 8 episodes, yeah. It was a shorter-ish thing. But again, audiences had not seen something like that. And to be fair, I was like 8 or 9, like we were about that age when it was, my dad
I wasn't paying attention to Twin Peaks when it was coming out.
My dad
but your dad loved it, right?
Twin Peaks. Yeah. Right, so every now and again, I would watch it with him. I was like, can I watch it with you? He's like, okay, but you'll have no idea what's happening. Like, sure. So I sat there, and indeed, like, I tried to figure it out, but like, of course, like, I just have the sensibilities and the knowledge to understand it.
I'm sure your dad was like, I don't know most of the shit. Like, I don't even know what's going on. Like, when I watch that show,
like, there's a Simpsons joke in which Homer's watching it. He's like, I don't know what's going on. Brilliant, though. Like, if you remember that, right? It was like that sort of like became like its own like I don't know, like not like meme almost.
So I want to go into what Twin Peaks is about for a moment. I watched a large majority of Twin Peaks recently and prepped for this this episode, and I don't understand why so many people are confused by what's going on. It's not a very straightforward show, and it juggles a lot of plot lines, as I'm about to get into.
But it's not all that obscure either, is he going to say?
It's pretty, I wouldn't say straightforward, but in a way it is. So, you had mentioned that it juggles genres earlier. And it's such a fascinating way they do it, that on the one hand you have the murder of Laura Palmer, which is what 3/4 of the show is focused on.
That's ostensibly like the main,
driving narrative of the show. And if you ever watched like a kind of drama police procedural, like Broadchurch is actually a British show that does it, where you have a lead investigator in a town filled with kind of quirky
people, sure.
But that's enough of a building block for an unambitious show. Here they build upon that, which it's also heavily soap opera-ish, which I also think you pointed out. Mm-hmm. And that every single character has an A and B plot to each of them individually.
And sometimes more, but at least 2 plots.
Yeah.
And then so you have a kind of, not I wouldn't say a straightforward police procedural, but a
murder mystery.
Murder mystery with a soap opera, with also kind of a weird, where a lot of the major characters in there will have kind of Eastern beliefs, or at least kind of spiritualism.
Some kind of mysticism is introduced. Yes.
Major Briggs, who is one of the most straightforward characters in the show,
I love Major Briggs.
Also has kind of believes in prophetic dreams.
But even the main character, Cooper, has this very, like, not spiritual, but
we'll say he has unorthodox methods.
Mystical. He has mystical methods, I would say.
But he also has, I would say, Zen-like methods.
Yes, yeah. That's perfect. Exactly.
And then you have also this kind of, like, they just keep introducing different genres into this, so I have an example I want to give, which is not a famous scene from this, but it just, I think, exemplifies exactly what Twin Peaks is about. So Dale Cooper, who is the main FBI investigator involved with Laura Palmer's disappearance, and is in a kind of a standoff with another character who's set up to be one of the major kind of sub-villains in this thing, a guy named Ben Horn.
A local hotel baron, if you will.
Anyway, yeah, who also runs prostitution rings. It doesn't matter. Nonetheless, Ben Horn's daughter has disappeared, so they have an unlikely alliance, but they still don't trust each other. So Ben Horn's always chomping a cigar that seems to grow bigger with each scene he's in. And they're having
that's a Lynchian touch. Yeah. Whether or not it does, it feels that way, so it's bizarre as hell.
So they're having a standoff. So it's the forefront of the shot. In the middle of the shot is a mysterious Asian man reading a newspaper, but not reading a newspaper. He's looking over the newspaper,
like noir
watching,
style,
yes, staring at these two.
Mm-hmm.
And you haven't been introduced to what his plot is yet, but you know he's kind of a shady character. So that's happening. And then in the foreground, the hotel is hosting a bunch of cheerleaders and band members who are all running around with like tubas and other instruments.
And shit, yeah.
And there's so much going on the screen, but in a sense, and this is where it comes into it. They all exist in their own little worlds.
Exactly.
But mesh perfectly in this oddball show that's been created.
Right. Here's perhaps I'm going to try and boil down Twin Peaks to some extent.
You can try.
Right? Nothing about it makes any actual sense, but everything works in the world that Lynch and Frost have
set
created.
Up. Exactly.
And I don't know why. There's some kind of like Lynchian thing, and this happens in his movies too. It's the same way, like where it's like, this is ridiculous. This is not a thing that would happen. However, I get it. I'm good. He has such a way of pulling you in, investing you in his visual story that he's telling, that allows you to just believe basically anything that he's doing on screen.
Sure. I would say like it always retains a sense of like surreality, right? Yeah. So like it's real, but not in some sense, but it's grounded in reality, but things that introduce and happen. And as we said, the soap opera aspect, like everyone in town has some sort of like alternate agenda, or is like in love with someone else, or like involved in some love triangle.
So many love triangles.
All that stuff is happening like sort of like as an undercurrent to the main police procedure drama, when they're simply trying to solve the murder of like, I'll have to bring this up now. It's, I think, one of the most famous openings to anything ever. A young girl,
Laura Palmer?
A 17-year-old girl wrapped in plastic, body washes up on the shore. Mm-hmm. That's the opening shot to it. And I believe Lynch himself, like that, again, he will tell you, it came to me in a vision or whatever.
And the best part about this show is any other show, even up till now, like no one else has tried to do this. Any other show, this murder gets wrapped up, solved in one episode, right? This is...
No, the murder becomes more complicated.
This murder does not get solved until...
the end of the first season.
No, it's
midway
like...
through the second season.
Yeah, it's like a third of the way through the second season.
Right, you guys are right, yeah.
And honestly, they could have just not solved it ever, and it wouldn't have made any difference. Like that... The murder was very central to everything that was going on. However, like, it could have been strung out longer, and I don't think it would have hurt the plot. I don't know if it would have. Honestly, there is a little point in time, maybe like a third of the way to half the way or 3/4 of the way through the second season,
sure,
where you're just kind of like, I kind of felt like they were trying to figure out what the plot was going to be now that Laura Palmer's murder was solved, right?
Kind of, yes. I did get that sensation, but go on and all.
Well, and that was pretty much it, but like, it's basically like, but however, all of that weird, like, it still retains that weird feeling that you have like throughout the whole thing, but there's not like that direction that Laura Palmer's murder gave it.
It's surreality, and so like the interesting to me is that Laura Palmer's murder is supposed to be like a driving force, as we said, right? But it almost like falls away as you uncover more and more stories of townspeople, and like but nevertheless, it still all connects.
Yeah,
the murder is still there. Agent Cooper, Kyle MacLachlan, is still trying to solve this murder, but as he delves more and more into the dealings of the town, he discovers more and more facets to it.
Right.
See, what's important about Laura Palmer is to bring all the facets together is that. In a way, she's the linchpin of this. No pun intended.
It's perfect. No, it's great.
That she connects all the characters together.
Yes.
And as Donna says in one episode, it's like, I'm trying to be my own person, but it's always...
I'm drawn back to her. Everyone is.
Yeah. As she's screaming to Laura Palmer's grave.
Donna is...
her best friend in
best friend, and she also has like a twin,
no, a cousin
named Maddie,
who looks exactly like, and is her like it's the same actress.
Sure,
but like,
but real quickly, like that's something like also it's almost like a teen drama.
Like this is this is the crazy shit that you get into, right? That's definitely a soap opera move, but they completely upend how you would do it in a soap opera.
It subverts itself.
Yeah,
of course.
God.
And here's why it works, though, is that so you have different characters from different genres all running around together in the same plot, but every single character plays by the rules of their genre perfectly.
Exactly.
The soap opera plays by soap opera characters play by soap opera rules and play it to
police procedural, etc.
The supernatural aspect always plays, and it seems it should conflict, and it occasionally does, but. I think that having rewatched it, for the most part, it all makes sense.
Only at very few moments. And you're right, like on paper, this should never work. We're going to do a soap opera plus procedural plus like sort of like, again, supernatural sort of element things.
Yeah.
Okay. Almost any studio would be like, go fuck yourself. Yeah. Like, what are you doing?
I think they were basically like, there was like a moment where nobody knew what the hell was going on. They were like, just let David Lynch do something. And then Twin Peaks came out of that.
Yeah, and like it's always like, right. So because of that, like, I want to touch on how much its influence has spread, like almost throughout pop culture. Like, again, I mentioned the Simpsons thing. Like, you've seen it, if not parodied, and definitely parodied or referenced. Like, even like,
SNL did a good parody.
Yeah, SNL had a great parody. Colin MacLachlan was the guest, so he revived it, reprised it, if you will. But even if not that, like. Other things like literature that has come before, like video games, even like I've mentioned a bit of it on Syntax, things like Deadly Premonition, Alan Wake, like so much of pop culture in general saw something in Twin Peaks that like because you hadn't seen that before and saw like at least I think the talented creative people could look into it and see what worked about it, and if not, I'm not saying they replicated it, but took inspiration from what it tried to do, and indeed did and succeeded at.
There's nothing that's ever going to be Twin Peaks again. Twin Peaks is its own thing, except for maybe Twin Peaks, except for possibly Twin Peaks. Sure. And we'll even see about that. I have my doubts. I hope it's going to be as good, but
I'm cautiously excited.
Everybody's 25 years on at this point. We'll see what they can do with it.
I guess I'll say.
I hope it's amazing, but
sure.
But like that was a product of mostly its creator. But also of its time and place.
Exactly. Agreed, for sure. But I'm saying, like, we were discussing off-cast. The question is, do you think it still holds up more than not? And I think it does.
Actually, when I was doing my research for this, I forget the name of the site that was like they did basically an episode by episode recap of it. And one of the big questions there is, does it hold up? And here's the thing: is watching it again. It's weird because I'm not a huge fan of nostalgia, as you're aware, and I can divorce myself from what I used to like. Does it still hold up?
Sure.
The thing is, it's sort of like to me like watching the original run of Adult Swim, where you've seen stuff come later that played upon
that riffed on it. We'll say
even did it better than what they did, but there's a charm.
But without the original. That you couldn't riff
on. Even like there is. It does everything hold up? No. Is it dated? Certainly,
somewhat.
It is.
I would say.
I feel like it was dated when it came out, though. Like I think that's what they were going for to some degree.
There's some racial humor in Twin Peaks that comes across as very out of touch now when watching it.
Okay, I don't remember that, but yeah, that makes sense.
When Catherine dresses up like the Asian man in order to sneak into. Regardless, it's yes, that happened.
I did not remember that.
Like,
yeah, it comes across as like not of this time and place.
Sure.
Which you have to put it in its spot. But there is I feel it still holds up, and I think that again, without it, you wouldn't have a lot of the great things that came after.
And here's what I would say: I watched Twin Peaks for the first time maybe 5 years ago, and I've only seen it once all the way through. I've watched several episodes again,
variously,
sure. Having seen it way late in the game, right? I didn't watch it when it was coming out. I didn't watch it for a very long time after that. I think that it was a show that I have not seen anything that did
quite the same thing, right?
The same thing. I was going to say did it better, but I don't think I've seen anything that's done what it did.
Other people have stolen elements of it,
of course, but like that's
and have done those elements better.
But as we said,
but that's the whole thing. Like Twin Peaks is just a work of stealing elements from other places and mashing them together, right? Like so, stealing elements from that is just breaking soap opera back out into soap opera to some degree.
Exactly,
dude. It's like mashing all this stuff together. I haven't seen anything do that quite. In the same way, or even close to the same way that Twin Peaks did it.
I agree. I think of a phrase,
and it's a work that stands on its own. I don't know if you can do it again. I think if you did that again, like if you try to do that in a different show or a different movie or something, I think it would come off as fake,
obviously
or like,
derivative.
Yeah,
I guess I agree with that. So the thing, right? As we said, it's interesting because it sort of like threw a number of genres into a blender and all this weirdness as well, like other aspects that somehow like. They were juggled and balanced so well that like, if anything tried to reproduce it, it would be like a pale shadow of what it was originally.
There's an earnestness to its schlockiness.
Yes.
Right, exactly. It revels in its schlockiness, right?
And it not even revels, like it knows that but uses it, and it's charming as hell in a sense. Mm-hmm. Even though like when things get kind of dark or sort of take like a weird turn.
Anytime that somebody says or anytime that Cooper says this damn fine cup of coffee in that show, you believe that he loves that coffee. Like, like
it is
he gets a slice of pie.
Coffee
he gets a slice of pie. He gets his coffee, and he loves it every single time. I don't think he's ever had a bad cup of coffee in his life.
Well, the thing is, he's enamored by Twin Peaks, and like because like ostensibly, again, like the genius of it is that like he's supposed to be basically your surrogate. He's your window into this world. So you're following his story, but like. He's also, like, kind of a quirky character himself.
He's a fucking weird-ass guy, too, though.
His quirks are going unfolded, and you're like, well, this guy isn't as normal as I thought. But at the same time, you're seeing it through his eyes for the most part. So, like, if you're, like, if you're supposed to be reflected through, like, I believe, it probably is a damn good cup, like, probably the best cup of coffee he ever had in his life. And he's an FBI agent. He would know. Right? Like, all these little tidbits are, like, scattered throughout. And, like, it's almost a breadcrumb trail. And each part, like each little bite of it, like tastes differently, and it's something that is interesting and like engaging with you.
Yeah.
So as we agreed, it stands. It definitely stands more than it doesn't. Like, sure, maybe parts of it falter here and there, but by and large, we have to agree that it's a landmark in just, I would say, like artistic creativity. Sure, in the television medium. But its tendrils, if you will, the Black Lodge reaches out very far and wide.
And let's not ruin this, but the last scene in Twin Peaks has stuck with me. Like I said, I watched it 5 years ago. I will never, ever in my life forget the last scene.
I was waiting for one of us to bring that up.
Twin Peaks.
It's a John Carpenter ending, but better than John Carpenter. Like, one of the greatest endings I've ever seen in my entire life. And, like, as you said, like I said, I watched a couple of episodes when I was younger. When I was old enough to appreciate it, I watched it all the way through.
Yeah.
And that scene, and it just cuts the credit. Like,
it is so fucking haunting.
They were supposed.
It is so haunting. I know they were setting it up, and that was the cliffhanger. Right?
They were supposed to like have another season, and then they got canceled again. Like, Twin Peaks has gone through a roller coaster of production hell, but the work as it is and as it stands, I think, cannot be denied. Its influence and it's just if not its genius, just its mark on the zeitgeist of pop culture.
Completely agree. Ian, I think you were going to say something. Perhaps you've lost the thread at this point.
Are you in the Black Lodge?
Sorry if I ruined this for you.
No. Well, you ruined Twin Peaks for me. That's fine. But
Twin Peaks can never be ruined.
No.
Let's agree.
I just like having watched it again. Yeah, there are like. I would definitely recommend to almost anyone the first season of Twin Peaks. At least if you want to get an idea of what this is and pretend to your friends that you've seen the whole thing, watch the first season. The second season does have its issues with it, especially
it meanders a bit.
Yeah, it gets a little convoluted.
The love triangle between Laura Palmer's cousin and
all that.
Donna and James Hurley.
There's like 6 love triangles in the second season.
At least.
No, there's like 32.
Yeah. But 6 cubed.
But I think, again, overall, like, you should, if you enjoy absurdist humor, if you enjoy that, you should watch Twin Peaks throughout. I want to give it once, right from the first episode. Where they're cut to the high school after Laura Palmer died, before the news is broken, and one kid is just dancing in the hallway and kind of does the MC Hammer walk off into this. There's no need. You never see that person again.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't need to be there, but the fact that it is, like, elevates it somehow. And, like, again, that's a Lynchian mark.
Yes.
So, like, I don't know if anyone else but him could have created something like this. And it's again, its lineage, its tendrils are everywhere. You can see its mark on a number of things that even you wouldn't even like heard of Twin Peaks or know about it. I guarantee you've encountered something that you like that did in fact pull from Twin Peaks.
Of course, yeah. It's well, Twin Peaks or David Lynch in general, like, right? He's such like Lynch. The term Lynchian. Yeah. You don't get a term for yourself
for no
very
fucking
often.
reason.
Like, there's not that many directors that have a term for themselves. Like, you got Lynchian, maybe Tarantino-esque,
Spielbergian, I guess we'll say, shit like that. Sure,
there's a couple more maybe, but like
you have to have some kind of talent and vision, and like molding it into reality in order to have an actual term artistically named after you. Of course, Steve, that's awesome. I agree. So, yeah, again, if you're a fan of Twin Peaks, we're just basically fan-wanking over about it, and hopefully we're excited.
I'm going to not fan-wank over it for a moment.
Oh. All right. Oh, all right.
That I like David Lynch's work, but I'm not the biggest fan of Lynch, because I think I wouldn't want to say self-indulgent, but I think that
you think he's up his own ass.
And the issue is sometimes he can be. I kind of agree. I'm kind of in the middle of you guys.
Yeah, and I think that Mark Frost definitely restrained him
out
in Twin Peaks.
Yeah.
So it was touches of Lynch that helped make this
the perfect storm
work. Yeah.
Yeah.
Then I'm afraid now that this third season
no, they're
Twin
working
Peaks,
together again though.
They will, but Lynch will have more control, making it, because Lynch has a tendency, I think, to alienate his audience, which I don't think he gives a damn about.
Sometimes he wants to, though, on purpose.
He doesn't give a shit about that.
But I think that the beauty of Twin Peaks was that you would occasionally get the Lynchian alienation, but
for the most part,
you enjoyed the characters in one and actually cared about them. So that's my big fear with the upcoming Twin Peaks. Not that it won't live up to what it was, but that it would be too dominant. Like the balance that was perfected in the original won't be met with.
I see that. So you're like you have somewhat of a trepidation, I suppose, about it. And like, yeah, I now that you say that, like, I sort of see what you mean, but I still think, given the time length and like given like they've had a history together and given its legacy, I'm looking forward to it. I think it's going to be, again, more well done than not. Sure, it might falter.
So would it be fair to say you want this to be more Blue Velvet, less Eraserhead?
Yes. I certainly would like that too. Yeah. Eraserhead was an early project of his, and yeah.
Or like Lost Highway. You know what? I like all those movies, but I can see... I definitely understand the alienation aspect that you're talking about.
If we're touching on this real quick...
He really wants you to... At certain points in those movies, I feel like he wants you to fucking hate him. Like, for making this.
I guess we'll never know.
Like, what the hell is going on?
But I would say, like, if there's a scale, like, yeah, like, I think Twin Peaks was the most Blue Velvetian of adaptations, that it wasn't quite Eraserhead. It wasn't to that extreme, nor was it to Lost Highways extreme. It found, like, a perfect, like, middle. And as you said, like, maybe Mark Frost indeed, like, was a factor balancing him out. So we'll see how it goes. But I still think the legacy is like, respectable enough. Like I still adhere to it enough that
I have an image of like David Lynch like lording over Mark Frost, who is for some reason in my head in an iron lung.
They're like Bob and Mike. They're like Bob and Mike.
Yes, Mark, we're gonna give you. Yes, Mark, we're gonna give you EP credit on this. You'll be fine. He's like stroking the iron lung.
He's like, how's Mark Frost? How's Frost? Anyway,
see, what made Twin Peaks very unnerving at times was the moments of it was perhaps I would say 70% levity with 30% like strange and weird,
dark
and unexpected things,
and darkness, unexpected darkness.
Exactly,
right?
but it's unexpected because of the sheer amount of levity that was involved.
Sure.
And I don't, aside from Twin Peaks, I don't know how much you attach the word levity to David Lynch.
Sure, like that's the thing. Like as you said, like it found a way, and they'd found a way to balance all these elements all together, and like again, so like. The weight of its ambition should have collapsed upon in itself, I would think, at the time, and maybe even now, as we briefly discussed. But nevertheless, it still held up, and because of things like that, like those things made it more endearing, and somehow like, supported it, buoyed it, if you will, rather than like making it feel unwieldy or awkward that it should have like just fallen apart and people would have lost interest.
Sure.
So, at the end of the day, you have to give Twin Peaks, I think, a lot of credit. If you haven't seen it, check it out. Like binge it quickly before the new one comes out.
So.
And you know what? I'll be interested in hearing from people who have not seen the original and start getting into it because of the redo, the 25 years later thing. And that'd be real interesting to see like whether or not like if you weren't a fan or just happened to never caught it and like weren't into it.
What's the date that it's coming out?
It's Sunday. This Sunday, which is the 21st. We're recording this on the 18th or 19th.
Yeah.
Whatever
so
day this
less,
is. Yeah. It'll be just on the cusp.
Yeah.
But regardless, like I said, this is our salute to Twin Peaks. And if you're a fan, hopefully you've enjoyed this. You've enjoyed our references and you agree mostly like why it's good and the reasons we let out. Like it's a very unique creation, I think.
Certainly.
And I'm hoping too that it keeps that sort of like uniqueness to it. It's intrigueness,
It's intrigueness,
if you will. Yes,
I like that word. Where I'm going to use that from now on.
Cooper would use that word. You know what I mean? Yeah. So, anyways, anybody got any closing thoughts or any final send-offs for Twin Peaks?
I think we covered all of it. Or not all of it. There's so much more.
Of it, but
there's so much more.
The core of it.
But I think we covered why we liked it and a lot of what it was about.
We don't have enough whiteboards to explain the plot.
Oh, we've only got 3 whiteboards, but 2 of them are calendars.
No. Even then, it would not be enough.
It's an issue.
You'll just have to learn about it in your dreams and get the answers there.
Assume that everything that's pinned up here is having to do with Twin Peaks. We should get some string and like attach these to each other.
We'll do some more Twin Peaksian things with shit changes around and you won't know. But I think that'll do it for now. Any final thoughts, my friends?
Good.
All right. Well, I have been here in Twin Peaks at the Great Lodge Hotel with Jane Manzer.
Have a good night. And damn fine cup of coffee.
Stephen Amosi.
And I'm stuck in the Black Lodge.
And Fire Walk With Me. I'm Scott Thurlow. Good night. See you next time.
Editing and engineering by Scott Thurlow. Music by Christopher Morgan. Check us out on YouTube and iTunes for the shows, and on Facebook and Twitter for updates.